The incredible story of Brad Stevens, from working at Applebee's to becoming the second best coach in the NBA.
That shit. Shit. I want the world, yeah, I want the world, yeah, I want it all, said I want the world, yeah, I want the world, I'm coming to get it, don't care what you heard, don't care what you heard, I'm taking it all cause I want the world, yeah, I want the world.
Yo guys, what's going on? Modern Hoops here, and I am back with another video. Now, as you already heard today, I'm gonna be talking about the incredible story of Brad Stevens and how this man literally used to work at Applebee's. But first, we gotta take it way back to where it all started in high school. Now, Brad Stevens grew up in a small town in Indiana called Zionsville, where he attended Zionsville Community High School, where he was a high school basketball star. He was their all-time leader in points at 1,508, assists at 491, and steals at 157, and 3-point shots made at 138, and he even averaged 26.8 points per game during his senior year. He would end up accumulating all types of honors and awards during his high school years. I'm telling you, this man was a high school superstar. But that being said, he only received one Division I offer after high school and chose to instead play Division III basketball at DePaul University. But that being said, the same success he had in high school didn't really translate well in college. He was hardly ever a star in college, and he only averaged 5 points per game his senior year and struggled to accept or roll off the bench playing behind underclassmen. But after graduating high school, Brad Stevens accepted a high-paying job at a pharmaceutical company called Eli Lilly. However, Brad Stevens had a strong passion for the game of basketball and was upset about leaving it. So he left and went on to coach a summer basketball camp at Butler University, and then he accepted an offer to become a volunteer assistant for the men's basketball team in the year 2000. And during that time, Brad Stevens accepted a job to work at Applebee's to make money while he was volunteering. But one day before training, he was promoted to director of basketball operations, and during that time he only made $18,000 a year, spending 14 hours a day watching footage of defensive schemes. In a quote, Brad Stevens called it as enjoyable a year as I ever had. Then in 2007, Brad Stevens was promoted to head coach of Butler University after the previous head coach Todd left to coach in the University of Iowa. In his first year of being the head coach, Butler went on to go 30-4, which is pretty impressive, and once again, this was only his first season. Brad Stevens always had a high IQ for the game of basketball. According to his mom, the man started to watch film when he was only 6 years old, so I guess he always had a knack for coaching the game of basketball. And during the 2009-2010 season, Butler went 33-5 and made an impressive run in the NCAA tournament to reach the championship game, where eventually they'd lose to Duke, the score being 61-59. The following season, Butler went 28-10 and made the championship game once again, but eventually they'd lose for the second consecutive year in a row. But Brad Stevens would end up playing 2 more seasons at Butler, going 49-26 along the way. And during that time, a lot of schools were offering him a lot of money to coach for them, and the most notable was UCLA offering him $3 million. But on a whole nother note, during that time the Boston Celtics were in a rebuilding mode, and after firing Doc Rivers, they needed a new head coach, and the only person Danny Ainge wanted was Brad Stevens. No one else, just Brad Stevens. And the reason behind that is because Danny Ainge was always keeping an eye out on Brad Stevens, and he even considered him the best coach in college basketball, because getting to the finals for 2 consecutive years in a row was not an easy task whatsoever, especially with the program Brad Stevens had to coach. So in 2013, the Boston Celtics offered Brad Stevens a 6-year, $22 million offer, which of course Brad Stevens would end up accepting. But other than his first year in the NBA going 25-57, Brad Stevens has found a lot of success in the NBA, and you know, it's rare that a college coach is able to translate well in the NBA as Brad Stevens did. You look at other college coaches in the NBA like Billy Donovan, who had a lot of success in college but didn't quite translate well in the NBA. But after going 25-57 in his first season, the Boston Celtics found a gem in trading for Isaiah Thomas, who sped up the rebuilding process tenfold, and he was able to lead the Boston Celtics to the #1 seed during the 2016-2017 NBA season, and they eventually made it to the Eastern Conference Finals but lost to LeBron James in the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavaliers, but they were able to take one game despite Isaiah Thomas missing time with a hip injury. And looking at the pieces and players they had that season, no one really expected him to be in that position. A lot of the credit went to Brad Stevens, and that's when he started to really get recognized in the NBA. So after coaching a team of underdogs, this past offseason the Celtics were able to acquire Jason Tatum, who had a lot of upside, signed Gordon Hayward, and traded for Kyrie Irving. And a lot of people had that team going to the finals, but sadly during the first game of the season they would end up losing Gordon Hayward with a broken ankle. And once again, people had them as the underdogs, and yet they were able to turn a lot of heads during the season and shocked a lot of people with the development of Jaylen Brown on full display and Jason Tatum showing out in his rookie season. And you even had Kyrie Irving putting up an MVP season, and you also had production from other key role players like Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, and Marcus Smart. But just when everything was going their way, they started to deal with some nagging injuries to some of their key players, and then Kyrie Irving would end up missing the rest of the season with a knee injury. And no one expected them to go far in the playoffs, but yet they shocked everybody and even made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and even took LeBron and the Cavs to 7 games, but sadly lost. But once again, a lot of credit went to Brad Stevens. Losing 2 of your best players and dealing with some nagging injuries all season long and making it to the Eastern Conference Finals is not an easy task whatsoever. And if it wasn't for Brad Stevens' great coaching, they would not have been in that position, and that's just how I see it. But the Celtics are a really young team with an extremely bright future that has the 2nd best coach in the NBA, and when healthy I could see this team making the finals without a doubt in my mind. But from working at Applebee's and making only $18,000 a year to the 2nd best coach in the NBA, what a pretty dope story. But with that being said, that is all I got for you guys today, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe for more NBA content. But with that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you all later. Peace.